Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 28, Text 13. Prasanna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has a cheerful lotus-like countenance, with ruddy eyes like the interior of a lotus, and a swarthy body like the petals of a blue lotus. He bears a conch, discus, and mace in 3 of his hands. Purport. It is definitely recommended herein that one concentrate his mind upon the form of Vishnu. There are 12 different forms of Vishnu which are described in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. One cannot concentrate his mind on anything void or impersonal. The mind should be fixed on the personal form of the Lord, whose attitude is cheerful, as described in this verse. Bhagavad Gita states that meditation on the impersonal or void features is very troublesome to the meditator. Those who are attached to the impersonal or void features of meditation have to undergo a difficult process because we are not accustomed to concentrating our minds upon anything impersonal. Actually, such concentration is not even possible. Bhagavad Gita also confirms that one should concentrate his mind on the personality of Godhead. The color of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is described here as Nilotpala Dala, meaning that it is like that of a lotus flower with petals tinted blue and white. People always ask why Krishna is blue. The color of the Lord has not been imagined by some artist. It is described by authoritative scripture. In the Brahma Samhita also, the color of Krishna's body is compared to that of a bluish cloud. The color of the Lord is not poetical imagination. There are authoritative descriptions in the Brahma Samhita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and many of the Puranas of the Lord's body, his weapons, and all other paraphernalia. The Lord's appearance is described here as Padma Garbharunekshanam. His eyes resemble the inside of a lotus flower, and in his 4 hands he holds the 4 symbols, conch shell, discus, mace, and lotus. Prasanna vadanambojam padmagarabharunekshanam nilotpaladala shyamam shankachakra gadagadaram. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has a cheerful lotus-like countenance with ruddy eyes like the interior of a lotus and a swarthy body like the petals of a blue lotus. He bears a conch, discus, and mace in 3 of his hands. Prasanna, Krishna is always in this condition. Prasanna means cheerfulness. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita we quote this verse, Brahmabhuta Prasannatma, that the person on the platform of Brahmabhuta is very joyful. And he's feeling the blissfulness that is natural within the soul. So Krishna himself is Prasanna. Krishna is the source of all Prasannatma, joyfulness in relationship to the soul. For Krishna himself is Sachid Ananda Vigraha. We are also Sachid Ananda Vigraha, but the difference is that we are finitely Sachid Ananda and Krishna is infinitely Sachid Ananda Vigraha. So even if we just consider our condition, if we are on that platform of actual spiritual advancement, realization, then we become very cheerful, joyful. But Krishna is always on that platform of eternal knowledge because he is the source of all eternal knowledge. Krishna's position is the position of the greatest, Vibhu Atma, and we are the smallest, Anu Atma. So our insignificant condition also includes some blissfulness, but a small degree in comparison to the endless ocean of blissfulness which is manifesting from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna, even in his other forms, This is a description of the Vaikuntha Loka Vishnus. These Vaikuntha Loka Vishnu forms have many features. They are innumerable, of which there are 24 main forms, a double expansion, triple expansion 2 times of the original Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Vasudeva and Aniruddha features of the Supreme. These are 24 major forms which are apparent and recognizable easily within the Vaikuntha Lokas. There are other Vishnumurti forms, and all of them are bearing the conch club, lotus and disc, but in different ways. Of course, there are only 16 unique ways, since there are 4 by 4 positions of the conch club, lotus and disc. But even though there may be duplication of the positions, the names are different of these different Vishnumurti forms, and therefore there are different personalities there. And these Vishnumurti forms are similarly fully embodied with Satchit Ananda Vigraha. But the manifestation of pastimes are slightly different, or quite different, because the Lord is displaying a vast variety of pastimes in the spiritual sky. Krishna, he is described Anandamaya Vyasat. In terms of the great variegatedness, the great distinction that appears within his pastimes, abode, paraphernalia, associates. For this intense feature of variegatedness is one of the essential forms of his existence. Actually, the impersonalistic class of man, he who maintains a materialistic demeanor, is unable to appreciate or comprehend the vast variety which exists within the spiritual sky. That variety manifests for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. It's like if you were to go to, even today, we were to go to the holy abodes of the Lord in India, he will find there is a vast variety of living entities, plants, insects, birds, even fishes, or any other kind of creature that is there within those holy dhams. We once described before how during time of visit to Vrindavan, when Srila Prabhupada was there, I was somehow or another, I had just found out about one book by Gopal Bhatta Goswami which described all of the different forms of life which were there in Vrindavan Dham. How it was so variegated, far beyond the varieties which are normally found even in the surrounding areas. So I started to look and started to notice that there are millions of different kinds of bugs, each one of them colored very brightly in his own particular way, each one of him doing things in his own particular way. And if you look at the creatures, they're very interesting. If you worry about how they're sitting on your nose, you don't appreciate them so much. But if you just look at them in a little detached fashion, not so many of them sit on your nose, so then you start to realize that they're very colorful and they're very interesting. Similarly for the birds, similarly for even the monkeys, all the creatures there. And there's so many varieties. So there's a very, very interesting cornucopia of varieties of living entities. Similarly in Mayapur, so many beautiful birds, birds that you've never seen anywhere before. Even in Mayapur, we were all noticing that there are birds here we are seeing every other day who we've never seen before either. Some devotees have been there 15 years and they've never seen some of these birds, who just all of a sudden appear, fly around for a couple of days and then disappear. Then a new species of bird comes in. So, actually, these people who are engaged in bird watching and insect watching and all these, they would have a good time there. But the point is that Krishna has so many different manifestations of living entities in those places where he is for the sake of his pleasure. And this was confirmed by Srila Prabhupada, how all of these different creatures who are there within those holy dhams are there for the sake and satisfaction of Krishna, who enjoys them. Krishna, he even gives butter to the monkeys. He is talking with the birds. He is relating, even the trees are paying obeisances to, or trying to bend down to touch his lotus feet. All these different varieties of creatures are manifesting there in these holy abodes where the eternal pastimes of the Lord are manifested. So, variety is the key to enjoyment, and that we also see within this material world, how when everything is the same, it gets very dull. And when there are many varieties, although they may sometimes cause neophytes to become agitated in their mind, factually speaking, the different varieties are a good cause of pleasure to those who are capable of understanding. There are those who are very much interested in such varieties. Therefore, in the summertime, everybody drives away, because they're trying to find the varieties for enjoyment, more southern varieties of enjoyment in the summer seasons. So people are also having so many different restaurants because they're looking for different varieties of food. There are different varieties of cinemas. There are different varieties of music for each and every person's type of taste. Even in very impersonal countries, there are as many different tastes in music as there are musical styles. There are as many different tastes in food as there are food styles. And in this way, we find that people are variegated, and that this variegation gives rise to enjoyment. So, similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has many different forms, has many different pastimes, and in each and every one of those forms and pastimes, the manifestation of Krishna's pleasure is there. Sometimes his pleasure manifests in a very simple way. For instance, in Vrindavan, the activities of the Lord are very simple. He is acting as cowherd boy. He is enjoying with his cowherd boy friends and girlfriends, dancing and singing in the forest, and taking care of the calves. This is not very complex by the materialistic understanding, but from the understanding of the devotees, this activity of the Supreme Lord is very magnificent, because it is the topmost feature of his loving exchange with them. Whereas when Krishna is in Dwarka, there are so many activities he is performing, there are so many kingly activities, so many diplomatic activities, so many political arrangements, so many other people to see and arguments to solve, and so many wives to take care of, 16,180, each one with 10 children, so many family considerations, so variegated and so much more complex. But actually, when Krishna is living in his original form, in his original abode, he is actually living a very simple existence within Vrindavan Dham. So this is all variety. Krishna, he's enjoying the variety. Sometimes he's very peaceful in Vrindavan, and sometimes the demons come and he kills them. Variety. Or he may be peaceful in Vaikuntha. There are no demons in Vaikuntha. But then he's there on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, engaged in the slaughter of millions of men. Varieties. Krishna is filled with varieties. And everywhere within this creation, similarly, there are varieties. Just as there are varieties in the material world, there are varieties of a much higher degree, in greater dimensions, in much more perfect form in the spiritual world. This material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. This material world is a very insignificant portion of the varieties, factually speaking. Although we are so much impressed with the various varieties of the material world, we're not even capable of perceiving them in their fullest extent because of the coverings that are upon this material body. This material body is dull due to the fact that we are covered by lust and anger and greed, enviousness, false pride, egotism, madness, illusion. These qualities are covering the conditioned soul. The more you are covered by the lower modes of nature, passion and ignorance, the less one is able to perceive the features of this material, even the material world. You can't perceive properly the manifestation of colors, or of tastes, or of sounds, or of forms, or of the different feelings, because of this covering on the soul. Just like a man who is very lusty cannot even perceive the world around him. He simply perceives the lust and doesn't even understand how nice things may be around him or whatever is going on around him. The perfect example was Bilvamangala Thakur before he became very engaged in spiritual life. And he was rushing off to see the prostitute Chintamani. He couldn't even perceive the flowing, flooded rivers, the snakes, the scorpions, the thorns, the rain, the lightning, the freezing cold. None of these things could he perceive. Because of being so much absorbed in the desire for enjoying lusty activities, he couldn't understand more. Because the senses became completely blocked off due to this determination to enjoy some lusty desire. So the contamination is there when lusty desires enter the heart and one becomes covered over and he can see nothing else. Of course, such contaminated desires lead one directly to frustration. Frustration and anger. This is kamesha, krodesha, rajaguna, samudbhavaha. This manifestation of the mode of passion in the form of lust is the direct cause of anger, which is causing destruction within this material world. And one is frustrated. In this material world, one is always frustrated. Frustration is the direct manifestation of the mode of passion. So long as you're in the mode of passion, so long frustration will be there. One cannot avoid to be frustrated so long as he's in the mode of passion. One can only become freed from frustration when one comes to the mode of goodness. It is only in the mode of goodness that freedom from frustration manifests. So long as one is in ignorance, one may not even be frustrated. He may just be simply in painful condition, suffering condition due to madness. When one is in the mode of passion, then he becomes very frustrated because he's active. He wants to accomplish, he wants to achieve, he wants to manifest so many things according to his own desires. But never does he actually fulfill all of his desires. Even when one accomplishes something, there's always somebody else to come and cause you trouble for that very thing. So in the mode of goodness, there is freedom from frustration. In the mode of goodness, knowledge manifests. And when there is knowledge, one can conquer over anything. When there is knowledge, one is not disturbed by anything. He can see everything in its proper perspective. He understands why things are happening, and he understands that these things actually have nothing to do with the spirit soul. It is simply the modes of material nature manifesting in their various varieties of ways, and that if one can simply become steadily acting in Krishna's service, then he will not be disturbed by the manifestations of the modes of nature. But to come to the mode of goodness is very difficult, because it means to withdraw oneself from the field of fruit of action to a certain degree. Now, if one is absorbed in the field of fruit of activity, where one wants for himself something of this material variety, he's going to fall within the mode of passion to that degree and be frustrated. But when one comes up to the mode of goodness, where he is freed from the fruitive desires for action, in that platform he neither laments nor hankers. Of course, this is the transcendental situation. We're talking about devotees who come up to the mode of goodness. If you're a devotee in the mode of goodness, for sure you're on the very close to or on the transcendental platform. These principles also work for a karmi, but a karmi may not be freed from hankering and lamentation in the mode of goodness only. He has to chant Hare Krishna, study Bhagavad Gita, so many things. But in any case, we're talking here about devotees. So when a devotee rises up to that platform of goodness, evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate, he begins to factually come to the point wherein he may get real knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being engaged in devotional service, and he will realize Krishna, become freed from the material existence. Therefore, our biggest enemy is the lower modes of material nature. For it is guaranteed in that verse, Srimad Bhagavatam, when you come up to the platform of goodness, you become blissful. You become freed from the tugging of the lower modes of nature, which means blissfulness automatically manifests. The thing which keeps devotee from not feeling bliss is that he's still contaminated by ignorance and passion. Therefore, he cannot feel the blissfulness which manifests automatically in the mode of goodness. Therefore, the mode of goodness is the best, because from that mode one can spring to the transcendental platform and become freed from all contaminations of the modes of nature. Therefore, the mode of being in the mode of goodness as a devotee and performing devotional service is the key to realization of Bhagavad Tattva. We want to know ourselves, we want to know the Supreme, but it is very difficult if one is contaminated, captured, absorbed in the modes of passion and ignorance. Therefore, if one is in the mode of passion and ignorance and then he complains, oh, why am I suffering? But this means that you are suffering because you're in these modes of passion and ignorance. Very simple. It is not that it is some accident or it's somebody else's fault. It's your own fault for being in the modes of passion and ignorance. You can't blame somebody else. Oh, he put me in the mode of passion. Of course, it is handy in the material world. You can always blame somebody else. Oh, he took my this. Oh, he stepped on my that. But who can say, oh, he put me in the mode of passion. Oh, she put me in the mode of ignorance. You cannot blame like that. The one who places oneself who causes one's degradation is oneself. For instance, you can say, yes, this one put me in the mode of ignorance because of bad association. But you can't blame that person. You're the one who associated. You could always walk away and chant Hare Krishna and do some service. Instead, one chose to stand around and talk something. Then the mind became agitated. Then one starts committing various offenses. Then one falls off the platform of goodness and falls right into passion and ignorance. And the next symptom is great frustration and one can't figure out why, so then they blame this one, that one, the other one. The real fault is oneself. One should not have contaminated in the first place and thus fallen off the platform of goodness. Of course, if one was never on the platform of goodness, he'll not even know that point. He'll not even be able to avoid bad association. Therefore, in Upadeshamrita, there are these points that one should avoid. And Rupa Goswami includes Janasanga, bad association, as one of those points. Bad association also refers, of course in this case it refers to people, but in the English language, bad association can also refer to, let us say, associating with things one should not associate with. Reading materialistic literatures, seeing materialistic images, being absorbed in materialistic thoughts, or making some goal of life which is materialistic. This also causes one to fall down from the platform of purity. When one associates within the mind, or when the senses associate with something which is impure, one becomes contaminated. Therefore, one should always associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, those who are fully absorbed in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that which is in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tvadiya. Tvadiyanamaradhanam. The highest form of activity is to worship the Lord and all of His associates, paraphernalia, pastimes, words. These are the things which Krishna has given us for our benefit. So, the Supreme Lord, He has given us so nicely the possibility to know Him through the transcendental Shastra. Therefore, in this part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Dev is describing the position of the Supreme Lord in the form of His image, what He looks like, how we should meditate on Him, what is His paraphernalia, what does He carry in His hands, what is there hanging around His neck, what ornaments are there on His body, what is the color of His beautiful dhoti. In every part of Krishna is transcendentally beautiful. His beautiful arms, His beautiful lotus-like eyes, His beautiful hair, His beautiful smile. Everything about Krishna is beautiful. Anything which touches the body of the Lord becomes more beautiful because of that. The jewels which are on the body of the Lord becomes more beautiful because of the touch of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So all of these things are glorified because of contact with Krishna. A flower upon the beautiful form of the Lord becomes so beautified, glorified, because of the contact with the Lord. The flute is glorified by the gopis, who wonder what kind of austerities and penances the family of reeds must have performed to have such a child who's being touched by the nectar of the lips of the lotus-like Lord. So, we have been given this description very kindly by Kapila Dev. Of course, here he is describing Vishnu. Kapila Dev's description is for us who are absorbed in the material forms. We may be absorbed in the form of our wife, or we may be absorbed in the form of somebody else's wife, or we may be absorbed in some form we thought about 10, 15, 20 years ago, or we may be absorbed in something which is right before us now, but actually we should be absorbed in the form of the Lord. For that is the only way to become freed from the attachments to these other forms which are mundane. Therefore, the description in the Bhagavatam is there for the transcendentalist to meditate upon. After all, there was a big description here of the yogic process, how the yogi should act, what he should do, what he should think, how he should place his body, how he should situate himself, exactly the breathing meter. This all is the beginning stages. These are not very important stages either for us. We are not performing that form of yoga. We are performing the form of yoga of concentrated devotional service in knowledge. But the goal of both processes is the same. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, one who knows both processes knows that the goal of both processes is one, which is to come to the platform of constant meditation on the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One does it within the mind and within the heart, but we want to come to the point of somehow or another meditating on the transcendental form and features of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the yogic process simply culminates in the transcendental meditation on the Lord. But when you are meditating on the Lord, one must know what he is meditating on, how he should meditate on. It's like sometimes the yogis, they meditate on the form of the Lord in the heart, but they don't know that this is the form of the Lord in the heart. They think this is the form of themselves. And therefore they start to become offensive. You look at the super soul, and this is me. This is a very offensive thing. So the form of the Lord is to be meditated on and loved. We should love Krishna. This is the whole point of our activities. We should come to the point of loving Krishna. All the time, one is so much absorbed in everything material that he forgets all about loving Krishna. He forgets all about the fact that he's serving Krishna. And that others are also engaged in serving Krishna. And so when we're all serving Krishna together, that's very nice. When we're all trying to please the Lord, that's very nice. Instead, one meditates on material things and becomes frustrated. So long as one is meditating on something material, he's going to be frustrated. There's no other question. You've got to be. Because frustration is the direct and absolute manifestation of material meditation. Because there's nothing in the material world that won't frustrate one. Of course, you can say, well, if we get to the mode of goodness, then at least it will be nice. Yeah, that's maybe true. But you have to go to the heavenly planets to find the mode of goodness nowadays. You won't find purely mode of goodness anywhere on this earthly planet, I'll guarantee you. I've been all over it. Only place I haven't been to is Australia, so I'm going there soon. So when I come back, I'll tell you if that's also not the mode of goodness. But as far as I've seen so far, it seems to me that every place in the world is definitely in the mixed modes of passion and ignorance. And anybody who meditates on any portion of this material world is going to become frustrated. Everywhere you go, you find the same thing, frustration. Why? Because we're not meditating on Krishna. There's no other guilty personality than ourselves. We have everything. A Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we have the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, we have Prasadam, we have Krishna's mercy in various forms of service, we have good instructions, we have everything. We have everything. The only problem is we don't have the purification required because of attachments. Maintaining attachments in spite of hearing so many instructions on them. Material attachments. Of course, being attached to spiritual things is good, but material attachments brings frustration. And one insists on maintaining material attachments, so then he insists on being frustrated. But one wants to become freed from frustration without giving up his material attachments. That's not possible. If one is insisting, I will be attached, to all my material conceptions and my material association and my material enjoyment, and I will become freed from frustration. This is impossible. It's a contradiction. It's fire and water principle. I will start a fire, I will light water, and I will cook my subject. It doesn't work like that. If you light a fire and pour water, you don't cook your subject. So one has to choose. Does he want some wet ground, or does he want a fire? So our biggest problem in the neophyte platform is that we are not capable of maintaining the determination required to continuously engage ourselves in a detached way in Krishna's service. We always fall back into some form of material attachment. Therefore, there are so many agitations. One can get agitated about anything in this material world if he's in the mode of passion. Yeah. We simply have to look at somebody the wrong way, and immediately he's freaked out. Yeah. This is the mode of material nature. Everybody's paranoid. Also, most likely, schizophrenic, and all other features of material problems. What to speak of downright psychotic. The whole material world's like this. What we consider to be normal is in fact a highly advanced stage of schizophrenia. Yeah. If you take any really normal person and you compare him to any so-called normal person of the material world nowadays, you'll find that we have defined normality as an extremely advanced state of schizophrenia. Formerly, nobody was so stupid as he thought he was his body. Even the Hiranyakashipu knew he wasn't his body. Even Hiranyakashipu, the biggest demon in creation, understood he wasn't his body. So normal were people in those days. Nowadays, everybody's completely mad. Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yadinjaya pritaya apranoti. Because of a misunderstanding, totally filled with lusty desires, they don't understand even the point one, the first point, the basic point. So what we have defined as normal, because everybody simply defines things according to however they want. So in one place they define normality this way, in another place they define normality that way. But basically, we have defined normality as an advanced state of schizophrenia. And that is an extremely dangerous position. And therefore we're frustrated. Frustrated because we cannot come out of this condition so long as we are not 100% or trying to be fully surrendered to Krishna. So okay, we say 100% and everybody says, yeah, we've heard that before. Okay, at least you should try. Not that you say, oh, I can't be 100% surrendered to Krishna, therefore I give up. Therefore I'll become 100% attached to my wife. This is not the excuse that will be accepted when one is reaching the condition of old age, disease, death. He's about to leave the body, he's got to go. And all the material attachments have him so tightly in their grip that one cannot break free from the material world, and he takes birth again in another frustrating condition. And when he enters the womb again, next lifetime, and wakes up, he's frustrated like anything. Oh no, not again. Another sack. And this time he knows perfectly well where he is, having gained all that knowledge in the previous lifetime of being a devotee. How frustrating. So, one has to come out of the lower modes of nature and get up to the transcendental position in order to become freed from frustrating conditions. And this is an extremely important thing. One has to do like that. Otherwise, one will become agitated, all the time agitated. Agitation, constant agitation of the mind and body is a symptom of material contamination. One has to come beyond this form of agitation, surrender to the Supreme, and actually be happy. You can't be happy unless you surrender to Krishna. not by making material arrangements of any form or variety. One must surrender to Krishna, then he'll be happy. There's no other way. Are there any questions? One can spring to this transcendental platform from the mode of goodness. What does it mean? You don't know. It means that if you're in the mode of goodness and you are engaged in devotional service, that the step required to come to the transcendental platform is not very difficult. It's very easy. You can spring. It's like you can immediately elevate yourself to that platform quite easily. Whereas from the mode of passion or ignorance, it's not possible. Therefore, one must first come to the mode of goodness. Then he can attain. Tadaradhistamo bhava kama lobhadayaschaye etarachaya navitam stitim sattve prasidati. First you must get to the platform of sattvik, sattvagun. Then you can come to the platform of the transcendental position. So it's a very easy step. I just gave a whole class on how frustration is caused. They're not frustrated. They just see this is something to correct. They see it's a mistake, so let's correct it. And if it's uncorrectable, they realize we're not God, we can't change the world overnight, so let it be. Later on, when Krishna sees fit, he'll correct. But you should give a good attempt to correct. Just like I've been getting piles of letters. I get piles of letters like this. Of the piles of letters like this, half of them are filled with frustration. This is bad, that's wrong, this is no good, the whole world stinks, blow it all up. This is basically half the pile of letters is something like that. And yet when you think about it, it's little things. And yeah, sure, these little things should be corrected. Definitely. Every day the deities have to have garlands on, every day Srila Prabhupada has to have garland on. Very simple. Of course, when you get into the middle of the winter, and then it's a whole thing, actually, according to the Shastra, you don't have to supply garlands when flowers are not growing. So how do we get around that? Well, we fix one of the greenhouses so we have flowers all year long. And then we give flower garlands to the deities, because that's just the way we want to do it. So that's not... But why we don't have flower garland? Because somebody didn't make it. Why somebody didn't make it? Because nobody thinks they should, because the other one will. So management means somebody says, who's in charge, to somebody else, you make the garland. And this way the problem is solved. If the devotees, for instance, I've heard big complaint, everybody leaves their bead bags on the floor. So don't put your bead bag on the floor. It's obvious. You should not put your bead bag on the floor. You shouldn't even hang your bead bag in such a way that it's a little bit off the floor. It should be up. Just like some clever fellow has put his bead bag on the thing there. Now, of course, I would never leave my bead bag like that. But at least it's high enough. I never leave my bead bag anywhere, except in my room, locked up, because I'm completely paranoid. So I don't know how somebody could do that. But anyway, they've done it. But at least it's high enough. Don't walk on the papers, they're on the press. The rule in the press now is no papers leave the press. If you want paper, don't go to the press. That has to be dealt with in a specific way. If you see a picture of Krishna and you step on it, don't you think there's something wrong? Sure, of course. So don't do that. Don't read Bhagavatam in the bathroom. Don't eat prasadam in the bathroom. It's amazing we even have to say this. It's incredible. Don't, let's see, what was, I'm going through the lists one by one here. Can you imagine somebody has to write to me and tell me that I should mention that we shouldn't eat prasadam in the bathroom? It's just like, I don't know, it's mind-boggling. These things make me think for 3 or 4 hours, just... Don't put gumchaws down the toilet bowl. Don't laugh. These are very serious. People are doing it. And then it takes one devotee 3 days to fish out a gumchaw that went down the toilet bowl. Isn't it incredible? We're so careless and so unconcerned for others that we just stick a gumchaw down the toilet bowl or anything else, cloth, any other cloth, it's all the same. It clogs up the whole system and it all comes back out, floods the place. And that gumchaw has to be fished out anyway. It's a totally mad. It's madness. It means just... But these are things that, yes, certainly they have to be corrected. So everybody has to understand this point. And if somebody sees you with your bead bag on the floor, and he says, don't put your bead bag on the floor, don't get upset. If somebody sees you acting like a malecha and tells you, don't act like a malecha, don't get upset. One should, if one doesn't believe that you shouldn't put your bead bag on the floor, so then go to somebody you think is an authority. Don't get all upset at the person who told you shouldn't do it. If you don't believe them, go to somebody who's an authority and ask, is it so that I shouldn't put my bead bag on the floor? And if they say, yes, you shouldn't put your bead bag on the floor, then you shouldn't think badly about that person who told you don't do it in the first place. And you should understand that maybe I'm a complete malecha and I should listen to what other people have to tell me. Obvious. There are so many things. There's piles of things, millions of things. Yeah. But of course also we're trying to... we have analyzed, a group of us have analyzed, actually, that the biggest problem we have here is a disease problem. That because of a certain physical disease, it affects the mind. And people become very agitated. So we have appointed a 6-man committee of our medical department to just attack the disease, headed by Madhavapuri, Karl Henrik, Booko, Hanale, Hari Puja, and who's the other one? Oh, we're bringing up Rati from Germany, Kashiraj from Germany, 7-people crew. And yesterday we went around, a bunch of us, and we just saw all things which are not clean, which are dirty, which are sources of disease. And we wrote it all down, and we immediately have to start solving the problem. So we already brought a microscope over last night. We're going to start testing everything. Oh, Swayambhuva also. He was in total anxiety over there. I was wondering why. 8-man crew. We have 8 devotees who are simply going to go after disease, and they're just going to find it. They're making it their life's work, like Sherlock Holmes. They're just going to find that disease wherever it is, wherever it may be, because that may be the #1 cause of anxiety. We're thinking like that. So starting today, they're just going to do whatever they have to do to find that disease and stamp it out wherever it may be. So one should also understand very strange symptoms in the mind, they're also possibly due to something in the body. So one doesn't get all hung up. If the disease tells him to become agitated, he knows, it's just the disease talking. Yeah. Just like those who have liver problems, sometimes they just get angry because they have a liver problem. They don't even understand why they're getting angry. There's no reason for them to get angry. Even there's a reason for them to get angry. They shouldn't get so angry. And other people think they're just nuts. But the actual fact is that they have a liver disturbance, their bile is not working properly, and it makes them angry. So we've somehow ignored completely the fact that if the physical body is completely out of functioning, that also makes the mind out of functioning. So first we're going to try to solve that problem. Then if everybody's still agitated, then we know we have to do something else. I just wanted to mention these things so that everybody realizes that there's some hope. We're working on it. And our medical department, which is a pile of devotees now, should just make it their life's duty to stamp out this disease. Work hard and do it. And don't depend on the karmis. They don't know what they're doing. Of course, we can bring some here and make them sit here. Let them get the disease too. Then they can't say there's no disease. Like they do in the hospital. You go to the hospital, they say, it's just a virus. It'll go away in 3 days. Or that's just your imagination. Or you eat too much. Or you just chant too much Hare Krishna. You should... Yeah. We should convince one to come here and get sick too like everybody else. And then that will encourage them to find the cause. Anyway, we have a very big plan. Oh, Shanti is also in that department. We have a lab department, analyzers, who are going to just do bacteriology, and a research department to find out what the symptoms of the disease indicates. I figure if we can very sophisticatedly make a press, we can very sophisticatedly work with computers, we can very sophisticatedly work with electronics, we can do nice deity worship, we can find disease too. So let's get into it. And everybody should help. You should help by not, doing things which are not very clean. Like for instance in the bathhouse, it's such a mess. It has to be kept clean. Usually in every other bathroom that I've ever been in, there's a squeegee sitting there, and after you finish making a mess everywhere, you just squeegee the water into the drain. Of course our drain may not be, but still with a squeegee you can push water anywhere. That should be like a general rule for every single person. After you use it, clean it up. After you use it and the water spills everywhere, then take the squeegee and just squeegee it into the drain. It takes 2 minutes. And if everybody did that, how nice the bathroom would be. Don't walk in there with your combat boots with mud caked on from the year 2 and expect the bathroom's going to stay clean. And then use the squeegee, clean it up. And if the water's squeegeed into the drain, it will dry up fairly quickly, I hope, maybe, perhaps. The problem is impersonalism. One doesn't think there's another person living in the same place I'm living, or somebody will clean it up. One has to think, no, I have to keep it clean. It's a question of consciousness. It's actually not a question of management. Because no manager on the planet can keep a bathroom clean that 60 persons are determined to make dirty. I don't care what kind of manager you are. There's nobody who can solve that problem. If everybody's determined to make something dirty, it's going to get dirty. And if everybody's determined to keep something clean, then you don't even need any management. It stays clean. It's a very simple principle. It's like when you are sleeping and you wake up in the morning, then immediately roll up your sleeping bag and bed gear and put it up and then wash the floor every day. Just like when I went over to see our new house over there where I was told brahmacharis are living, every single sleeping bag was laying on the floor. So this is not good. It should be immediately rolled up and put up out of the way, and at the end of somebody washes the floor. Even if he comes to the morning program a little late, okay, don't get hung up, just wash the bathroom floor and then get there. And wash the floor of the house and get there. Wash your room floor. Always, this is the procedure. There should be nothing left on the floor after the morning starts. Simple little things, but they make everything so much better for the consciousness. When you walk in the brahmacharya ashram, it doesn't look like a crash pad or a flop house. It looks like an ashram, a place where spiritual life is performed. So these are very, very basic principles which are very important. Are there any philosophical questions? Enough with the philosophy, not... Yes? Everybody gets proud. Yeah, if you do something very nice, so one of the fruits of that activity is that people will appreciate it. But if you're very proud about it, nobody's going to appreciate it. Yeah. Let's say you wash the floor, and it's nice. So then people come in and say, oh, how nice this floor is. But if you're going, yes, I washed this floor, then they're going to say, who is this? And they're going to forget all about the floor. So you lost the whole fruit of the appreciation of others. That's a small example. You can extrapolate that into many departments. Yes, philosophical question. Yes? What's the question? Oh, you want to verify that? Yes. A person who is Brahminical by nature is in the mode of goodness. But that doesn't necessarily mean if you're a devotee and you're acting in any other capacity that you can't come to the mode of goodness either. You're doing it out of duty, you're doing it for satisfying Krishna, you're already beyond that. If you're doing it for those reasons, and you do it all the time like that. So you can also come to the transcendental platform because you can also be in the mode of goodness, even though acting in another capacity. But from the materialistic point of view, yes, it's generally only the Brahmanas who get to the mode of goodness like that. You can see, for instance, the cowherd men and women of Vrindavan. The Vaishyas generally work in mixed passion and ignorance, but they're working in pure goodness because they're all thinking of Krishna all day. So that is true in the material platform, it is not at all true in the spiritual platform necessarily. There are plenty of Brahmanas in Maya. Yes, is this a philosophical question? No, Prabhupada would have thought like that. If there's just enough flowers and you have to make a choice, so you make deities garlands. You have to consider the mood of the Acharya. So the Acharya wants the flowers on the deities because he worshipped the deities like Prabhupada worshipped. You see, there's another problem here which I'd like to describe, which is in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Although it does say that you should not offer flowers which are out of season, which have no aroma, or which are rotten, it also says that all of the principles of the deity worship will be adjusted by the Acharya when he installs the deities. Deities must be installed by an Acharya. I mean, this is nowadays a bad word, but after all, that's what it says in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. So deities must be installed by an Acharya. So the Acharya who installs the deities, he makes the rule and regulation for the worship of those particular deities. So even if he tells you something which is different than what it says in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, you must follow that. So when Prabhupada installed all the deities at various formed places of ISKCON, and we have not installed any other deities in any other way, he installed them with the principle that they get flower garlands. That changes the whole Hari Bhakti Vilas. This is the most important point in the Hari Bhakti Vilas as far as deity worship is concerned, that the Acharya sets the standard, and whatever standard he set is the standard which must be so. So because Prabhupada did set that standard like that, therefore deities will have flower garlands. And therefore we'll make one of the greenhouses just for flowers, to maintain that standard. Because the complaint is, it costs so much money to buy flowers, that it's much better to do something else for the deities with all that money. So sure, that makes perfect sense. If you're going to go out and buy flowers, or you can use the money to establish beautiful opulent deity worship, I would agree as a pujari it makes more sense to do that. But if you've got the facility to grow the flowers, then you should do it. Although I must admit, I don't know how you're going to grow the flowers in the middle of January. It's going to be tough stuff, but anyway. I don't care how you insulate the greenhouse, it's going to be tough stuff. But nobody grows flowers in the middle of January. But, we've done things that nobody can do, so let's see what happens. So the principle is, anyway, if you're at the point where there's not enough flowers, then you first offer to the deities. If there's enough for the deities, then you offer to Srila Prabhupada, and then anybody else on earth you might want to offer to. There's absolutely nothing whatsoever wrong with having Tulsi Devi on Prabhupada's Vyasasan. This was the standard in Los Angeles. Always there was a Tulsi Devi on Prabhupada's Vyasasan, without exception. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with the Tulsi Devi on Prabhupada's Vyasasan. But there should be a Tulsi Devi on the altar, but a little one. According to... You don't have a little one. And here's another point. Okay, there may be things which are right, and everybody agrees they're right. But right now we need another room for Tulsi Devi. Okay, so we can stop all the farming, and the farmers who are also the construction men can make another room for Tulsi Devi. All right, let's say, or otherwise our construction crew can stop working on things which are trying to keep us from dying of various forms of disease and work on that. It's all a question of priorities. We have to do everything. So maybe we should just be a little patient. We will make a bigger Tulsi room, won't we? Of course. We will fix up everything. But it's one thing after another. Just like, of course we have to have a proper sewer system. This one may be proper, it just needs to be repaired. But if we say, yes, we must have it, that costs 300,000 crowns. So who's going to pay for that? Yet at the same time, somebody says you shouldn't go on Sankirtan because it's bad for you. There's another philosophy. Sankirtan is bad for you. Okay, if Sankirtan is bad for you, then we all have to leave this place because it's the only thing supporting this place. So if everyone starts thinking in their head, Sankirtan is bad for me, then we may as well stop this project right now, sell everything, because we're never going to support ourselves. If that's the philosophy, Sankirtan is bad for you. I don't know what it's bad for. Is it bad for your health or is it bad for your sex life? I'm not sure what it's bad for. This whole movement is the Sankirtan movement. We can't say, here we are on a farm and we're doing a Gurukul and we're doing a press, so we don't want to hear about Sankirtan. So sure, we can just talk about, okay, kids have to grow up to be first class and the books have to be made first class and everybody should just work like that. Then at the end we all starve and then so everybody starts complaining. Why there's no food? Well, there's no food because there's no money. Why there's no money? Because nobody wants to go on Sankirtan. Why nobody wants to go on Sankirtan? Because that's not very important. What's important is the press and the Gurukul and the East program. Now I'm not saying everybody's saying that, but factually speaking, there's nothing wrong with talking about Sankirtan. It's not like it's an offense or an aparadh, And neither should anybody chastise or criticize anyone during a class. It's an offense. You should not bring up opposing arguments in front of the deities. You should just let it be. If somebody makes a complete ass of himself, of course if he says philosophically wrong things, the managers of the temple can stop the class. If somebody starts going really wild, you just stop it. Otherwise, later on you can give the sauce to various persons. Afterwards. But if somebody, I'm just begging everybody one thing. If somebody comes here who's a little immature, and he starts talking about Sankirtan philosophy and Sankirtan ideas, don't level the person completely, because it's going to make total chaos. There's going to be civil war. Because half people will think this is very nice, half people think it's not so nice, and you're going to have havoc. Just wait till it's over. Then you bring the person aside, you go to the manager, you say, hey, this was a little bit inappropriate, and you just make sure it doesn't happen again. That's the way you do things in the mode of goodness. In the mode of passion, one takes out his howitzers and blasts the guy's head off, and then at the end everybody's frustrated and fried, and it's more damaging than the original damage. Yeah? So these are just very simple, basic principles of Vaishnava etiquette. You must follow the etiquette. The etiquette must be followed. As soon as the etiquette is not followed, then there's havoc. So this must be done. And just to reiterate, there's nothing wrong with Sankirtan. It's paying for everybody's eating. I mean, to be quite practical and frank. But to speak of the fact that if one day we can even have a book distribution party, then there'll be much more strength, and it'll be very nice. So every temple, this is a temple, it's not separated from the Sankirtan movement. It's a servant of the Sankirtan movement. The books are being printed for the Sankirtan movement. The Gurukul is supposed to be training up children to become first-class members of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. We're not supposed to be training up children to become first-class members of society at large. This is a preaching movement. We have to train up everybody to become preachers. So they have to learn how to be preachers. But if there's nobody else who's a preacher, how they'll ever learn? So of course, these things can be argued in both ways. One can also say that maybe the management's not presenting it properly. That's also a good point, perhaps. So these things have to be balanced. But we shouldn't get out our guns and start shooting each other just because we disagree about something. Somebody may disagree with something, somebody may think something else is fine. That doesn't mean we should take out our pistols and start shooting each other in the head. We should just let it be for a while and try to make it right. Yes? As far as I understood, these are big Tulsi Devis who are beyond the damage point, and those are little ones who seem to be...
In the morning,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Why? 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 So then stop it and put the Tulsi back on the altar. So then the Tulsi can come in the back door. And then she sits on the altar. For the whole day. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm being naive, but they just, okay, Didi, a greeting. Because it's an issue now. Somebody made it an issue, right? So you have to be a little sensitive to that. It's no big deal. The Tulsi Devi can stay there, and later on the Tulsi Devi can go back. But as far as I've seen, I mean, in the Schloss, we always had Tulsi Devi on the altar all day long. And then she would, one day out of the week, the Tulsi Devi's on the altar is never harmed. In fact, she grows very nicely at the lotus feet of Krishna. Well, that's another thing. So why don't you get into it here with you know about Tulsi Devis? Yeah, that's true. That's true. Are you sure though? Because somebody wrote to me that it's an offense to have Tulsi Devi on Prabhupada's Vyasasana. I mean, this point, there's always mistakes that can happen. Okay, so therefore, the movement was actually structured with higher authorities. So when it's something which they don't accept, then it can come up to a higher authority will fix it. Now, of course, you may say then that, well, why don't they listen to me directly? But that's something, huh? Yeah, it's a problem time, you know, it's just, it's like that. And anyway, nobody likes to listen to ladies. It doesn't matter whether you're older or younger. The fact is that ladies culturally do not, in our movement it's very strong, do not tell men what to do. I mean, no matter what we try to arrange, it doesn't matter who's disciple, ladies don't tell men what to do. Of course, unless it's their husband, then they tell them everything what to do. So then it's the husband's duty to do that, to represent the wife, just so that the wife is peaceful in the family. This is also etiquette. In Vaishnava culture, there's no example of ladies telling men what to do. In fact, ladies don't talk to men. So this is also a problem. Don't expect that. Husbands should do that. But of course they're also frustrated, because if they go, they get the same thing. They'll go to somebody and then somebody says, I just don't accept that. Well, don't blame me. It's not my fault. Not directly anyway. Maybe slightly indirectly, I'm not sure. If somebody's rock-headed, of course it may be my fault. But the real problem is that if somebody has knowledge, we should learn to accept that knowledge. Knowledge is authority, regardless of age. And definitely it's a fact that the older Prabhupada disciples here do have a lot of knowledge. Especially Kirtiraj and Haripuja, they know very much. Sriram and Alarka, they know very much. They're old devotees who know many, many things about deity worship and all of these things. And they're actually authorities in this regard. From the ISKCON point of view. Nowadays you see something else has happened, which is a very new thing, which is that ISKCON became overwhelmed with all of the Hari Bhakti Vilas points of view, because we have gotten really into it. The way that the deity worship is going on now with all the mantras, tantras, and prasardas and all the other things, they're so far different. I can't do an artik. I have no idea how to do it. The way we used to do artik is, the 7 circles, the 3 here and the 4 there and the whatever. You just do the circles. You start at Prabhupada, you go all the way up, the circles, and you're doing the circles, and then you come back out, and then you bow down like that, and then you go to the other one, you bow down like that. That's all I know, because I'm from the old days. Last time I ever did an artik to the deities, besides, I think maybe I did one in the last 15 years. I'm afraid to even go near the altar now. Unless you know how to do the this and the that and the this and the this, you can't even pick up the ghee lamp. So it's not the way it used to be, We used to just chuck some water on the ghee lamp and chuck some water on your fingers, We used to do it even backwards, We used to chuck the water on the ghee lamp and then chuck the water on the fingers. Actually, put the water on the fingers first and then you put the water on the ghee lamp. Everything was just so backwards in those days. Who knew anything? We didn't know anything. And Prabhupada in 1975 asked me to arrange the Janmashtami greeting in Vrindavan. I said, me? I don't know anything about this. He said, anyway, I said, please you tell me what I'm supposed to do. He said, I also don't know. He said, I never lived in the temple, so I don't know these things. He said, you go to one of my god brothers, he named Anand Prabhu, and you just ask him how to do it. He knows everything, how to do these things properly. So I went to him, we did a whole thing. First time in ISKCON it had ever been done right. With all the, the proper grains and the kusha grasses and all the other kinds of grasses and this grain, that grain, the other thing. We put Krishna on top of that, and we did all the this and the that's with the hands, and all the things happened. It was wonderful. All the devotees were knocked out completely. What are they doing up there? But you see, that's the thing. The Prabhupada was totally into the Bhagavata Vidi and not into the Pancharatriki Vidi. Therefore, he asked us to translate some of these books and follow them. So therefore, now these standards are actually changing to get back to what they should have been according to the Shastra. So that is causing some problem between the old devotees and the youngsters, because the youngsters actually know how to do it 10 times better as far as the proper procedures. But the old devotees know the basic principles which the young devotees actually don't know, which is specifically like the flower garlands, or specifically like having Tulsi Devi on the altar. These are just things which Prabhupada established, which may or may not be there in any Shastra, but because he established them, we follow them. But the other things, as far as the procedures, we change the procedures according to the Shastra. But according to the specific elements of deity worship, we're still following the basic elements that Prabhupada established. Just like, for instance, Prabhupada's Vyasasan being there directly across from the deities is actually not the way it's supposed to be. It's actually supposed to be to the side in an alcove, which is the way it was made in Vrindavan, which is the proper way. So, but we don't care. Because Prabhupada wanted it like that, it's going to be like that. From time immemorial, we couldn't care less. We write the book. Because the Acharya established it that way. He's the Sampradaya Acharya of ISKCON. The Sampradaya Acharya of ISKCON means he establishes the ways and means this movement goes on for time immemorial. According to this Sampradaya. So long as the Sampradaya lives, and I hope it's a long time, please Krishna, then this will be followed. And that's all there is to it. You don't worry about this kind of a principle. So these things have to be balanced, and I suppose I should get more involved in that. So basically everything's fine. It's very nice deity worship. Maybe there's a little point here, a little point there, which has to be adjusted according to that or this principle. But that's a sensitive point. It's not so obvious. It's not like... it's something that has taken me a lot of years of investigation and discussion with all of our big brahmanas who are doing this research all over India, and doing research into Hari Bhakti Vilas, and finding out exactly what Prabhupada wanted, and figuring out according to the Shastra how this is all to be balanced to come to this point. Like, for instance, this is another thing that Prabhupada had to start with the deities and go down. Backwards. Prabhupada had to start with himself and then up to Parampara, etc., and deities, and then that was it. But factually, that's not the way it's supposed to be done. Factually, you don't offer the prasadam of each guru to the next guru. Up. But actually, this wasn't the point that Prabhupada was establishing. He was establishing that in order to offer the article to Krishna, it's not you who offers the article to Krishna, it's the superior guru who offers the article to Krishna. So you're offering to Prabhupada, that means he's offering now to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who's offering now to Gaurkishore Das Babaji, etc., up the Sampradaya. And we hand it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he offers it to Krishna. Now, okay, that explains what Prabhupada established. But now, then the prasadam is offered to all the others. So the way you do it is you hold the article before your guru and request him to offer it to his guru so that we can finally get it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So you hold it, meditate on this offering, you show it to the next, meditate on him offering, show it to the next, meditate on him offering, all the way up to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At that point, we're ready to start worship. Then you begin the artik. You're holding the article, up, and then you begin the artik with Krishna, then to Radharani, then to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then etc. And then you're offering the prasad from Krishna down, all the way down through the Sampradaya, and then you get to the Vaishnavas. Like this. So what it is a twofold process of requesting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to offer to Krishna, and again, back down again. The prasad is offered. So this is not an obvious point. It's a very subtle point, and actually it solves all of the problems in deity worship. It's actually what Prabhupada established and what Sanatana Goswami established as a perfect, it is what exactly is to be done in deity worship. So there's been so many, somebody said it should be like that, somebody said it would be like that, but actually it should be like this. And now all the brahmanas are satisfied, who've been working for 6 or 7 years trying to figure this out. Yes? You mean on the altar? No, you should have, everything has to be offered on the altar. Strictly speaking, the disciple offering directly to the spiritual master is good enough. But there are other, let's say there are other maybe God brothers there. Strictly speaking, that's no longer good enough. Because for them, offering it to another one of their God brothers is not an offering for them. The offering goes to whoever and then down. So if there are others, they're on the same level, but it goes to them and down, then where do they go? So therefore, when there's prasadam, which is being offered to a group of God brothers, then it should, or whatever, then it should be offered to the deity. Anyway, everything should be offered to the deity. Why not? If you can offer to the deity, offer to the deity. But if you want to make a special offering for Guru specifically, you can do that. But if there are others involved in that, God brothers, then it must be offered. It must be offered to Prabhupada specifically in this case. Otherwise, it's just plain old boga. Then you're not just cooking for me, are you? Then you can offer to Prabhupada. You offer to me and Prabhupada. You have your picture there, and you have a picture of Prabhupada. You offer to both. But why do you have to do that? You can everything can be cooked here. This kitchen's much better. Everything should be offered to the deities. Why not? Huh? Yeah, the problem is I'm the most whimsical eater in the history of mankind. That's the real problem. I'm really sorry about that. Just I can't get it together to eat at the right time. But you understand, you have to offer to Prabhupada. Yes?
I just wanted to bring up one small point. I've heard sometimes different people mention how the personality of the teaching is already something, but I've personally never heard of it. It seems to me that it's a stronger argument type of thing. Also, as far as I have never experienced here that someone was actually attacked in the closet and stuff. So maybe there's been some what misinformation stuff.
But the same misinformation is that somebody wanted to kill one of our members here. It's a question of perception. Let's say the person who so-called wanted to kill one of our members here one day said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Then they thought, well, he's a killer, he's going to kill him, you know. Then let's say somebody gives a Bhagavatam class and somebody else says, you shouldn't do like that. Then they perceive this person's against it. It's a question of perception. From my point of view, the whole thing is a joke. None of this seems to me very important. It's just like, it's like in the air. It's just mental. Yeah. But because it's perceived that way, everybody takes it so seriously. So, I would agree with you. I don't find an anti-Sankirtan spirit. But then again, one should understand other people perceive things in that way. I do find not an anti-Sankirtan spirit, but I do find that a spirit may be there that, well, I just don't want to go out and collect. It's too much trouble. Therefore, I brought up the point. My point of view is it's just an excuse to be lazy in that regard. But somebody has to take up the responsibility, otherwise the whole project collapses. But it's perceived as an anti-Sankirtan spirit, so I had to say it like that. But I don't really think it's like that at all. Just like I also don't think that all the problems which were brought to me in all these piles of letters were actually what they seemed to be. There is something behind that. Like maybe somebody just didn't know something, which is important. So therefore I kind of explained all these things. And I'm sure I didn't do it very properly. It was off the cuff. It wasn't planned. So if there were any other points, you can bring them up. Just that.
I think I didn't answer that nicely with respect. I think we should there. So I just wanted to bring that.
No, I didn't think is what was happening. Just like Sri Ram, for instance. I mean, he's not here, so I can talk about him. Somebody may think that, he was against Sankirtan, but, Sri Ram's been busting his head for the last practically, when did I start him doing this? In December, or no, even before, maybe August of last year, almost 1 year. I've been pushing him to the maximum to get things together for the BBT just to protect the books. He's doing more work for the BBT, hard, intensely difficult work. So he's working for the BBT more than anybody else here. And so I couldn't figure the whole thing out. It didn't make any sense. Here, he's my main BBT man in the legal department, and other people are complaining that he's against Sankirtan. And what is he doing it for? Doesn't make any sense to me, you see. It's just like all in the mind. Therefore, yesterday I sat for 3 hours basically just thinking about what is the problem here anyway. It's such a nice place. Really, this place is a wonderful place. Yeah. Well, what is the problem? I think the problem is disease. And I got it too. I've been so sick for 2 days. As soon as I come here, I get sick. Why? Because there's a problem is we have a disease in this place we can't get rid of. And it affects the mind. And everybody gets agitated. And we have to stamp it out. And I think that's the solution. Maybe I'm naive, but I really think that's the basic root problem. Because there's no problem as far as I can see. These are little things. They're little things which become big things. I can't figure it out. Unless, there's some more basic philosophical thing, but I really don't think that way. Because you can't get more Lakshmi. Lakshmi is not possible because it's just not there. This place has debts, incredible big debts. What we did yesterday is we cut down this ABC to a 5-man crew. Because it's too big and it's unwieldy and it's not accomplishing its purposes. So we cut it down to a smaller crew, and they're going to have to figure this out. I can't get into the finances of the temple. I got enough problems. But that's not a complete misrepresentation. That's a percentage-wise, majority percentage misrepresentation. Everything, so many things have been accomplished here. This place has accomplished so many things in such a short period of time. No temple on this planet has developed as this temple has developed in such a quick period of time. The devotees have to pull together. If you want to have... Do you know that a temple this size should have 15 cooks? We have 1. Ganga Devi, and because Ganga Devi is a trooper number 1, she's a warrior number 1, you eat only because of Ganga Devi. You should all go to the kitchen and pay her obeisances to Ganga Devi. That's how I feel. Because she's a great devotee, you're eating. Yeah? Otherwise, a temple this size should have 15. I remember in New York, we used to cook for 80 to 110 people. I had 15 cooks. 6 offerings a day, 80 to 100 people, 15 cooks. And during the time when we were cooking for the devotees, there were 4 minimum, plus a pot washer, plus a kitchen cleaner, plus a driver, and plus the boga cutters, the vegetable cutters. That's 4 full-time cooks. They were stirring and I was spicing. And all these other persons, that was 8 people in the morning, were cooking for the same amount of devotees and deities. And here you got 1. So no wonder you got problems. And why no one wants to cook? They think it's like Sudra work, I guess. It's actually Brahminical work. If you want to talk about Brahmanas, then get in and cook. Because Brahmanas cook, they do the puja. Actually, in all the other temples in my zone that have big worship, you can go to Korsnes, you can go to Germany, there you can go to Switzerland. The head pujari is in charge of all the garlands, is in charge of the cleaning of the temple, is in charge of the kitchen. They're also in charge of the kitchen because it's an extension of the altar. So the head pujari job is a big job. It means all of these activities. And the temple presidents in these places don't worry about it because the pujaris are fully in charge. They have their own crew. They have their own people. They go and they inspire people to serve the deities. They even collect all the money for the deity worship. They collect so much money. Premarasa there in the question is collecting so much money, he's going to build a big temple. So the pujari department's also preaching and organizing and managing. It's a big, big service. And so we have to get it together like this. And we also have to be ready to go in there and cook chapatis. I personally used to find that the Bhagavatam class was so much more nectar when you were in there doing something in the kitchen at the same time. Yeah? We used to have the speaker blasting so loud that it was way above all the clank and the thing. And we were all quiet too during the Bhagavatam class. And then we were doing all that stuff. We used to have 6 people rolling chapatis sometimes in big, big days when there was 400 people in the temple. When Prabhupada was there, I remember 450 people packed in the temple. I remember, I can see it right now. 6 or 7 of us rolling chapatis. Not the greatest chapatis, but anyway, there was a lot of people doing it, assembly line. So it's a question of working together. Huh? It's not inherently better to hear class here than it is to hear it over there. In fact, I think it's more blissful in there. It has to be loud, the speaker, and you just work cooking. And also, don't just think, well, I have to please the deities. And if the devotees like it or don't like it, well, they're just a bunch of Sudras anyway. They have no taste buds. When we were cooking, when I was cooking in New York, the only time I really have a great experience of it, otherwise in Bombay that's something else, but when I was cooking in New York, I was thinking, and I had the whole kitchen thinking, that our duty was that every day the devotees would lay on the floor and be amazed. We would feed them so well, they would just roll over in ecstasy. This was my mentality. We had to please the devotees. Therefore, every day at breakfast, because we had big Sankirtan activities, so we just ate a big meal in a day, we made 3 sabjis, chapatis, rice, dal, a chutney, and sweet rice. And usually we tried to get together some pakoras or something like that. That was tough because it was a fight with the temple president because I was famous for using too much ghee. But besides that, we also sometimes we made breadsticks instead of chapatis, and it was good prasadam. And everybody to this day remembers the prasadam in the New York temple in those days. Every single devotee who was there remembers it. Isn't it? Oh, halava also, sorry. Everybody remembers it. Why? Because they were happy. Why? Because we thought first, let's please the devotees. If the devotees are pleased, then we know Krishna is pleased, because they're Krishna's devotees. If Krishna is not pleased, then the devotees won't be pleased. And if the devotees aren't pleased, Krishna is not pleased. Just the Chaitanya Charitamrita, our whole Vaishnava culture is like this. Chaitanya Charitamrita is Big feasts, and all the devotees are pleased. They're all just in ecstasy, chanting Hari Bol, because the prasadam just made them think of Krishna. And we think cooking, ay, what a drag. It's because we are malechas. So we have to get above this platform of malecha life. I used to have people fighting to cook. Everybody wanted to move in the kitchen department. I had to make a schedule. Who could cook what when? I never had to run around look for cooks. And at the end of the cooking, we all went out, chanted our rounds, and at 10:30 we were on the subways. And we were the biggest Sankirtan party of all. 12 of us in the kitchen beat 35 devotees in the press. So it's not that it's not possible, it's a question of consciousness. If you have the right consciousness, you can do anything. So I think we can do it. I really do. If we all just think, not that somebody else should make the garlands for the deities, somebody else should cook for the devotees, and I'll just be an eater. We should do it ourselves. Isn't it? Does anybody disagree? Any more valuable comments from... No, I'm just letting here these God brothers and God sisters say because they know best. Yes? But, you know, there is that problem that men just don't want to... What? You hold out your hand. But your Charanamrita is not for giving out at prasadam time. It should stay in the temple. You should take... Why? Why much more? Yeah, but the Charanamrita that is... Okay. Served during prasadam in a spoon or in a cup. You better.
There was next to altar, there was no possibility of serving because the building wanted to get fresh floor. And I was out of the he said that we can serve it. But actually, I did have to do it.
It's not a principle that you do all the time.
And then later on,
Is it something that happens all the time? Well, maybe, you know, sometimes you have to be a little patient too, you know. You can't, you know, I've told this before, so it's not bad that I say it again. I never try to correct more than 1 or 2 or 3 things each time I come. 1 thing a day. If you try to correct more than 1 thing a day, they can't take it. Everybody flips out. Therefore, I only correct 1 thing a day. Of course, that means to stay here, I'd have to stay here 100 days in order to... But if you try to correct more than 1 thing a day, it just gets too much. And then you go, and this, and this, and this, and the other one says, ah! You know what I mean? It doesn't work. So one else has to consider the, you know, it's a pretty heavy crew here in Almviks, you know. So one has to be a little sensitive to that. But you shouldn't serve out Charanamrita like it's food. It should not be served out at prasadam time. You should not serve out Charanamrita in cups at prasadam time. And if it is that way, maybe in a festival, then everybody gets a big cup of Charanamrita, but you drink it first. If that does happen, then you drink it first. Then it's not part of your meal. That's respecting Charanamrita properly. Because we do that also in Germany, you know, when we have this big Nrsingadev Abhishek, and we have a barrel of Charanamrita at least this big, you know, a huge barrel of it. Well, then everybody gets a cup of it, but you drink it first and respect Charnamrita properly. It shouldn't be part of the prasadam, you eat a chapati and then take a little Charnamrita. You can water tulsi if it does not harm tulsi. You can also water plants. Okay, not tulsi. Huh? You bathe the deities with yogurt. No. Only a small portion. This is actually the procedure. A small portion of the bathing water gets mixed with the yogurt and what else you want to put in Charnamrita, and then that's put here. The rest of it is kept as clear water. And that clear water is used for these various purposes. That's actually the way Charnamrita is prepared. And then that clear water can be used for a variety of purposes. Of course, never offered back to the deities. It's not like you take that clear water and then make a sabji with it. No. But you can offer that water to, if there's no oil in it, you can offer that to Tulsi Devi. Tulsi Devi will grow. Or you can let the devotees drink. That's also very good. In every temple there was always a place where you could come and drink deity water. If there's no oil in it. If there's oil in it, you get sick. Little bit. Okay. Yeah, but in Germany there's very dedicated Charnamrita drinkers. Huh? Yeah, in the summertime, yeah. Yeah. So don't mix all the yogurt and all these things. And then keep it clear. I'm just telling you the traditional way of doing it. It's more practical in my mind. And you can give to plants, and the plants love it. I tell you, when plants take Charnamrita, they just become ecstatic. Yeah. But now there is, isn't there? Here? You didn't make a drinking water tap down here? Why not? That was the first thing you got. Huh? Yeah, so don't we have a tap here of the one from here? But the pipe goes right under the house. Why didn't you do it? We talked about 1,000 times. You should take that pipe, and we discussed we're going to bring it around, and you can put it right outside here. Where does it go? That side. Then you bring in the pipe in the hallway, and you put it there by the pot washing room, and outside this side, so that you don't have to go in the pot washing room. Anyway, you're working on it, right? Okay, so in the meantime, Agraya's suggestion is very good. You leave that water here in a closed container, not an open bucket. You just buy a big thing with a spigot on the bottom. They have them for camping. Now's the time to buy them. Right now is the time to buy them. They use them for the camping. A big closed thing with a spigot on the bottom and an air thing on the top, and then you put the Charnamrita in there, and everybody can come and get drinking water. It's Charnamrita, and they all become ecstatic. Every now and then you can put some Radhakrishna water in there. One drop of Radhakrishna water makes the whole thing Radhakrishna water too. Yes. Doing what?
Everyone was complaining it was wrong and it should be done after the degree, and then we made systems and no one is doing it. But everyone was like it.
Anyway, don't worry about it. You did the right thing, so forget it. I mean, when you corrected it, you did the right thing, so don't worry about it. If they want to take Charnamrita, they'll take Charnamrita. Attitude is, it's wrong to give Charnamrita Prasadam like that. This is the right way. Whether somebody does it this way or not is his problem, but this is the right way. There's a right way, there's a wrong way. That's the right way, so do it the right way. Whether or not others come and take Prasadam, Charnamrita is not your problem. But that's the right way. Whether they do it or not is not the point. The point is, this is the right way. Okay, that's another thing. The floor was just done and has to be kept clean. That we understand. You're forgiven. Yes. Okay, but then what you do is this: you pay obeisances for the you pay obeisances for starting to move to Charnamrita to Prabhupada earlier. This tape is already so long, so as soon as they start singing the final Govinda, then you do that. Then everybody can go by, one after another, and then when the